Shalom, WJC family. Time for our weekly Torah talk, and it's been a week. I want to talk a little bit about this week's Parsha, which is Shemot, the beginning of the book of Shemot, the book of Exodus. The Jewish people find themselves, a new Pharaoh arises over Egypt, who does not know Joseph and enslaves the Jewish people. So I'm going to talk some about the Parsha and some about the prayer for our country, which I spoke about at a service we had on Thursday night, and I think some of those remarks bear repeating for those who could not be there. So first, before we look at the prayer for our country, I want to talk about this Egypt, this Mitzrayim in which we find ourselves. So Mitzrayim is the Hebrew word for Egypt, but it's interesting. Different ideas are given for the derivation of Mitzrayim, but at least some of those explanations say it comes from tsar. Mitzrayim is tsar. What is tsar? It's narrow. You might know it from Kol haolam kulo gesher tsar me'od. All the world is a very narrow bridge. Tsar, narrow, small, confined, narrow place. Mitzrayim is a small, confined, narrow place. Now, why do we call it that? Perhaps it's because for the Jews, we were confined there. And I spoke a lot about that a year ago, almost a year ago, around Passover time, about how the pandemic had suddenly forced us to experience our own Mitzrayim, our own confined space. However, another way to look at why Mitzrayim was small is because it was small-minded. It was a place that would enslave an entire people just because of their ethnicity or nationality, or their immigration status as Canaanites in Mitzrayim. It was the narrow place. Now, the prayer for the country that we recite from our Sim Shalom Siddur, and there's an alternative version in our new Lev Shalem Siddur, but the classic one that we've been reciting, I can recite almost by heart from weeks and weeks and weeks, Shabbat after Shabbat after Shabbat, for so many Shabbatot, of reciting this prayer. And it's an amazing thing about this prayer. You know, we pray for different reasons. We ask someone, what do you pray? Oh, I pray for something. My prayer is a prayer of asking, of aspiration, that I aspire that the world is this way, or that I get this thing, whether that's healing or success or a growing family, or so many things that we might pray for. But there's other kind of prayers as well. There's prayers of thanks and prayers of praise, right? And this prayer for our country that I have been reading for so long, my entire life, never once in my entire life has this prayer been an aspirational prayer. Has this prayer been a prayer asking God for something? I have always read it my whole life as a proud American, proud of this country, as I still am. And never once did I think the things that this prayer celebrates would be under attack, would be in question, would be something that I would have to actually ask for. Right? The prayer says, our God and God of our ancestors, we ask for your blessing for this country, its government, its leaders, all these things. Teach them insights of your Torah, that they would administer affairs of state fairly, that peace and security, happiness and prosperity, justice and freedom would forever abide in this midst. I never took that as an actual question. That was a statement of pride. This is a place that pursues and seeks peace and security, happiness and prosperity, justice and freedom. When I prayed that it would forever abide in our midst, I never thought I would mean it. It was more a way to say, like, yes, God, keep it this way because this is a special place. And that's not to say that America doesn't have its flaws, that we haven't made our mistakes over our history, some of them brutal and grotesque. But weighed on a scale, the United States is a good nation, founded on decent principles of fairness and peace and security and prosperity for all. Always achieve it? No. But always pursue it? Yes. A founding principle? Yes. And there is virtue in that pursuit. Creator of all flesh, bless all the inhabitants of our country with your spirit. May citizens of all races and creeds forge a common bond in true harmony to banish hatred and bigotry and to safeguard the ideals and free institutions that are the pride and glory of our country. In my lifetime, that has been a statement of pride. We are working for equality. We are working to bring people together to form a common bond in true harmony. But that's not what I saw on display yesterday. Yesterday, I said this prayer. It's Wednesday night. I'm recording this on Thursday. You'll see it on Friday. On Wednesday evening, when I said this prayer, I said it with hope in my heart. I said it with fear. I can't tell you how many times I have walked the halls of that Capitol building to lobby members of Congress and gushed with pride that I was in this fortress of freedom. The walls exuding the idea of government by the people, for the people, that I could sit with my elected official and lobby them on ideas that were important to me. Look, I couldn't make them vote one way or another, but they had to listen to me. That I found so incredible. I find so incredible. And to have those same very halls violated. Mitzrayim moved into the Capitol building on Wednesday afternoon. Small-mindedness. Those with oppression in their minds and their hearts. Those with hatred and bigotry. The Confederate flag flew in the halls of Congress, something the Confederacy was never able to accomplish. There's one picture of someone with this goofy Camp Auschwitz shirt. It's like a summer camp, making fun of the Holocaust. The Nazis never got their flag or their ideology into the Capitol building. No, that was reserved for the thugs, the hooligans, and the rioters who moved into the Capitol building on Wednesday night. Hatred and bigotry, small-mindedness, Mitzrayim, narrowness in thought and character. That's what moved into our capital. And when I said this prayer, I said it, as I will say it this Shabbat, with hope in my heart, as an aspirational prayer, as something I think that we were closer to, and that we are now genuinely at risk of losing. May this land under your influence May this land under your providence be an influence for good throughout the world, uniting all people in peace and freedom and helping them to fulfill the vision of your prophet. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they experience war anymore. Do you think the nations around the world watching what was going on in our capital, who had always held up American democracy and its respected institutions, including a peaceful transition of power, how do you think, we don't have to ask headlines, we could read them on the internet or in our own newspapers, how world leaders reacted, appalled that America the broad, America the opposite of Mitzrayim, America that had stood as a symbol of democracy and freedom and liberty, not only for those who are privileged to live here, but throughout the world. How did they react? And how about our adversaries? Tyrants. How did they react? On Wednesday night, were we an influence for good throughout the world? I don't think we were. I've never read Parshat Shemot before and thought there was any confusion between Mitzrayim and the United States of America. Maybe that's because I'm lucky. Maybe that's because I have a lot of privilege based on my birth and my background. Again, I don't attest to the perfection of this country, but I love this country. I love the values that it is based on. I love what it has been for the Jewish people. unlike almost any other place we've been able to live for the last 2,000 years. And that love, that pride, that was the prayer of praise I said when I said a prayer for our country. I pray that that feeling will come back. The pride, the love is still there for our country. But when I say this prayer, that's all that I'm saying it from. Gratitude. But I think as of Wednesday night, we have to admit that the prayer for our country is now also a prayer for aspiration. It's a prayer truly asking God to ensure that the United States of America is able to remain a symbol, a beacon of liberty and freedom, that it will remain a safe haven for the Jewish people and all peoples who fear persecution, that we will live up to our best ideals and not fall prey to violence and hatred and bigotry. I believe, I'm an optimist by heart, by nature, and I believe that, again, we will reach that moment. But it's our job to make sure that that happens, to not only recite this prayer with hope, but to mobilize ourselves to make it happen, to insist that our leaders uphold these core values, that we treat our neighbors with dignity, and that others treat each other with dignity, that what has made this country great for the Jewish people is able to keep this country great for all people. That is our responsibility. Yitziat Mitzrayim, to go out of the narrow space, the Exodus, Yitziat Mitzrayim, and to celebrate the broad, beautiful democracy that the United States of America is. May it be that way for our lifetimes and for many, many lifetimes. Shabbat Shalom.